For the Landrover Owners Club of Victoria, on Anzac Day in 2022, a trip had been organised into Wonnangatta Valley. So I started at Myrtleford Friday night in the Myrtleford Caravan Park. Lovely place. 4 or 5 different separate groups were going to make their way into the valley, and then I led a group of 4 vehicles in to Wonnangatta Valley on the Saturday. So we came in on the West Buffalo track, and for lunch we stopped at Riley's hut. Riley's hut would make an excellent refuge and was in tremendous condition. So this is an easy way into Wonnangatta. Although the West Buffalo track is rated at medium, we really had no troubles, and there was one very minor river crossing across the Wonnangatta River just before we got to camp. So the Wonnangatta River is a beautiful river, and river crossings are always a favourite part of any trip. So we had a mix of vehicles: Discovery 2, Series Landrover, Rangy Sport, and a Hilux. It's good to see the mix of vehicles, and everybody had a good time and didn't have any troubles. So the campsite was on the Wonnangatta River. Lovely bend in the river. Nice still waters. The camp had been chosen, it was relatively close to the drop toilet, which, given we had a large group of people, there would have been about 20 cars or so. That was a convenient thing. So you had a nice campground, relatively grassy, fairly close to where the old station homestead was. So on Saturday, I led a group of 5 cars on a medium trip, more or less around the East Riley Road loop. So Riley's Road is in a valley parallel to Wonnangatta Valley, and we headed north and then ran north-south down East Riley Road and then came back up north to our campsite in the Wonnangatta Valley. So Riley's track is rated at medium, and I would say that it was a pretty green medium. We had a lovely little camp spot, side of a creek, complete with a fire that somebody had not bothered to put out before we got there. The sun was out, the weather was good. I think we stayed here for an hour or so, soaking up the sun. From Riley's track, it turned into Humphrey River track, which was also rated medium, but this was clearly more difficult than we had encountered so far. This particular greasy clay downhill would have been very interesting if it was wet, and while the camera doesn't show it, the holes to the left of the pictures were actually quite steep and deep, and you'd be worried about arresting your panels against the bank as you came down the hill. Because it was dry, we didn't have any issues. So the Humphrey River track migrates or joins up with the Wonnangatta track, which heads its way back north up to camp. And just before we got to camp, we met up with a commercial group heading south. They had 9 or 10 vehicles in their group. They were not interested in waiting for anybody. And they had a Unimog with them, which was enormous, and I would suggest was not suited to the track, so it was too big. So we all had a good time. It was a great long weekend.